NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. Hello, welcome. How you doing? Sylvain here with you, and we are going to continue with our expedient means via Nichiren. Having a little fun with this one, as I'm sure you detected in the last installment of this particular Go show. I think we tend to get really, really serious about our study of Buddhism, and Buddhism certainly is something to be serious about. But I think it's also a very enjoyable practice, especially when we study these wonderful stories that are all meant as examples of interrelationships, self and others, self and environment, self and relatives, self and self. The way our mind works, right? Buddhism is about the mind. And the mind is a very capable Imagineer. So, this may be a story that's ancient and thousands of years old. But nobody believes that a king has the power to turn a human into a horse, right? Right? But that's not the point of the story. It's just a pretext to explicate and exemplify behavior. Because as much as Buddhism is about the mind, it is about the mind interacting with our samsaric relations, attachments, behaviors, the way we behave in lieu of our attachments and our sufferings and our earthly behavior, our earthly manifestation of energies. Our karma at work. We get to watch it. We get to know it. We get to create it. Right? I think that's something very early on in Buddhism that I always thought was quite fascinating, is that Buddhism identifies that you and me are the creators. As much as we're slaves to our previous momentum and just kind of crashing through every next moment, most humans would simply crash through every single moment waiting for something to tell them what to do. We're kind of built-in authoritarian creatures. We don't like to get ahead of the ball. We don't like to anticipate what's going to happen next. Some of us are very good at it. Some of us are horrible at it. And so this describes all various life conditions, right? So I'm sure this son never had it in his mind that he'd go search for his father because his father was missing, until his father was missing. And his mother was distraught, and he became panicked. And for whatever reason, he decided it was going to be his mission to find his father. And this identifies the filial relationship. How many sons would have just gone, "Oh, shut up, Mom, I'm so glad he's not around," and then privately lamented the things that now he didn't have because his father wasn't around? Maybe he would have spited him. Maybe he would have just felt he was a victim. "Oh, woe is me, now my father's gone." Right? There are many, many different ways this son could have reacted to his father's, not even a disappearance yet, just an unknown. Where is he? I need to know. That exemplifies an attitude and an intent in the son's mind that it was up to him to figure this out, to fix it somehow. right? So this is what Nichiren's whole letter is about, is to recognize the heroic acts that humans can make within their samsaric bounds and bonds, that we can affect our momentum. We don't have to just keep precipitating through life with whatever karmic energies are in us. And the more we precipitate, fall through life, if you will, as Gurdjieff said, the more we compound that same energy, like the snowball rolling down a hill getting bigger and bigger. Can we, before the snowball gets immense, can we kick that thing to a different direction? Can we kick it toward a valley, toward a body of water, toward warmth, so on and so forth, right? These are decisions we make as humans, and they profoundly affect our karmic momentum. This is why in Buddhism, destiny is a nonsense word. Destiny is really giving up. You're just allowing to happen what was going to happen anyway. Can you muster enough courage to affect? I'm speaking in a positive way. Plenty of people will muster the courage to do horrible things. You might argue that's compounding their karma as well, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but they're choosing to kick it in a less than life affirming way, a life unaffirming way, to use my oft used phrases. It takes real courage, though, to go against the forces of precipitation, right? That momentum. But that's also where we get the greatest sense of manifest of our power, our ability. We get to peer into what could be instead of just what is. So this is a very, very strong lesson, and we left off as the son was about to set off to find his father. Upon his arrival, he put up for the night at a small lodging. The master of the house said, "How sad you are still so young, and I can see from your face and bearing that you are a person of distinction." So already Nichiren is in this story indicating that the kind of courage it takes to do what the son is doing reflects in his personage. People will see it, will recognize the effort you're making. See, this is the self-environment. In samsara, a duality. In Buddha, not obvious, right? Self and environment are one in Buddha. I had a son once, but he went off to another country and perhaps has died there. Never heard from him again. At least I do not know what has become of him. When I think of the fate of my own son, I can scarcely bear to look at you, right? Because it reminds me so much, not only of my son, but your bearing, your courage. It makes me lament my own son. I say this because here in this country we have a cause for great sorrow. The king of this country is so inordinately fond of horses that he ventures to make use of a strange kind of plant. If he feeds one of the narrow leaves of this plant to a person, the person turns into a horse. Oh, now we know the mechanism he uses. And if he feeds one of the broad leaves of the plant to a horse, the horse turns into a person. Wow, what alchemy, right? So this king is a tremendous manipulator, is what we're getting here. Not long ago, a merchant came here from another country. The king fed him some of this plant and turned him into a horse, and is secretly keeping him confined in the first of the royal stables. Could this be my dad? When the son heard this, he thought that his father must have been transformed into a horse, and he asked, quote, "What color is this horse's coat?" The master of the house replied, "The horse is chestnut, with a white dappling on the shoulders." After the son had learned all these things, he contrived to approach the royal palace, where he was able to steal some of the broad leaves of the strange plant. What's he thinking? When he fed these to the horse that his father had become, his father changed back to his original human form. So there's a movie could be made here of all the information that's missing from that, but I guess you can put it together. By the housekeeper's, the house master's description of the horse, he was able to identify the horse that he had been told about, who he suspected was his father. And because he knew that the certain kind of leaf would take a horse to a man rather than just a man to a horse, the thin leaf versus the broad leaf, right? I don't know what he would have done if this white horse had turned into something else, because he was just a horse, but that's not the point of the story, right? So his father reinstantiates. The king of the country, marveling at what had happened, handed the father over to the son, since the latter had showed himself to be such a model of filial concern. Bingo! It even impressed this king, who was just fooling around with alchemy, and this son shows up to get his father back. Quite a courageous act, right? I mean, the king is quite a fortified identity. So this son was risking maybe his own life just so he could get his dad back. Oh, you care that much about your father? I mean, the king doesn't really care that he's losing a horse. He'll just make others, right? After that, he never again turned people into horses. Wow, so this touched the king's heart so profoundly that even though he had this immense power in his hands, he became completely aware of the strife and the difficulties that he was putting on people by playing his little game. So the son, by his filial piety, his filial responsibility, not only retrieved his father, but he changed some deep, deep karma in the king, who'd been doing this for years, like a matter of fact. Quite an awakening. So I would venture to talk to you about the bodhisattva behavior here. That even without knowing, he was retrieving his father for his own selfish needs. He needed his father, and he knew his mother needed his father. That's even another kind of a bodhisattva relationship. What he didn't expect to do, certainly, was to change the karma of this king, which reflects many people, many horses, the whole countryside, everybody knows, and alter that man's karmic direction, his momentum, with his act of filial piety, had inculcated the cause for great bodhisattva action. See, sometimes we don't know how our small actions to influence somebody in a positive way toward their Buddha nature. We may say, well, I'm shy, I don't like talking to people about Buddhism, and I said something to somebody, I took a risk, and now I'm afraid, maybe I didn't say it right. Maybe you said it right. You said it the way they needed to hear it, because that was your engagement at the moment. No matter what comes of it, it may look like an explosion, it may look like it's just gone, but you don't know how profoundly your little pebble in the water will resonate That's why it's important always to make the cause, no matter how small. Who but a son would have gone to such lengths to search for his father? The venerable Maudgalyayana saved his mother from the sufferings of the world of hungry spirits. Remember, we haven't talked about that story for a while. And the brothers, Pure Storehouse and Pure Eye, persuaded their father to give up his erroneous views in the Nembutsu. This is why it is said that a good child is a parent's treasure. Right? They're a renewed energy and influence. Just like all of us. They affect the world around them. But because we have an intimate relationship with our siblings, our parents, our sons and daughters, our karma is very, very intertwined. So the actions of our relatives have a profound impact on our own. Now the late Abutsu-bo was an inhabitant of a wild and distant island in the northern sea of Japan. Nevertheless, he was anxious about his future existence, so he took religious vows and aspired to happiness in this next life. When he encountered the exile Nichiren, he embraced the Lotus Sutra. And in the spring of last year, he became a Buddha. In other words, he passed, and because of his dedication to his practice, to the Lotus Sutra, leaving this samsaric body, all that's left is Buddha, right? Or meandering karma, depending on how he conducted himself in this life. How did he treat his momentum? If he treated his momentum in life with reverence and a single-minded will to fuse with his Buddha, once he sloughed off this earthly coil, that's what's left, Buddha. Not that then becomes his legacy after death, and he goes into a small island called "I've reached my Buddha." No, don't get mystical about this. What it means is that he was through with his earthly existence, and the way he shed his earthly existence was through a brilliant understanding of what this existence is all about, Buddha-ness. But once his body was gone, when his brain died, his body was not working anymore, there was no longer, what was his name? There was no longer an Abutsu-bo, and therefore there was no longer a mind of Abutsu-bo, because the mind belongs with Abutsu-bo. But his life condition of Buddha certainly would have manifested in those final hours, because he spent his life, after he met Nichiren, doing just that. That's what we're doing. We want to fuse with our Buddha. And we slip right back into our Sylvain, Bob, Alice, Betty, Twang, Throng, whatever your name is. Doesn't really matter. Because that's a provisional entity to instantiate this Buddha, right? That's how this works. It's a life condition, not a death condition. You know, always keep that in mind. We are Imaginarians, aren't we? It's very easy to get sucked into these made-up worlds and stories. That's not Buddhism. All right, let's continue with Nichiren. Village vow when encountered in exile. When the fox of Mount Shita encountered the Buddha's teachings, he grew dissatisfied with life, longed for death, and was reborn as the deity Chakra. In the same way, the Honorable Abutsu grew weary of his existence in this impure world, and so he became a Buddha. So you have a choice. You can, again, take your life's energy, your momentum in life, and you can suck into it and just compound it, or you can will it into less life-affirming earthly existence, because that's not real life. Or you can aspire to your Buddha-ness, your enlightenment, your awakening, and all of life, your own and everything around you, elevates, becomes less heavy, becomes more life in terms of enlightenment, right? Condition. His son, Tokuro Moristuna, the son who went looking for his father, the horse, has followed in his footsteps and become a wholehearted votary of the Lotus Sutra. Because of the tremendous efforts he showed as a filial son, he elevated his life condition toward his Buddha-ness, deeply, within his own nature. Last year, on the second day of the 7th month, he appeared here at Mount Minobu in Hakiri in the province of Kai, having journeyed 1,000 ri over mountains and seas with his father's ashes hung around his neck, and deposited them at the place dedicated to the practice of the Lotus Sutra. This was Nichiren's humble abode in Minobu. And this year, on the first day of the 7th month, he came again to Mount Minobu to pay respects at his father's grave. Surely there is no treasure greater than a child, no treasure greater than a child. NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo, NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. Think of how the mother was felt when she read this letter from Nichiren. How deeply she must have felt, not just pride, but awe at the causation of her own son, and the roadmap that her deceased husband left for her and her son. How amazing, right? Postscript. I am sending a priestly robe of dyed silk. Please inform Abutsu-bo the teachings of the Lotus Sutra are already spreading throughout the country of Japan. He's turning the tide. Abutsu-bo should undertake to propagate them in the Hokuriku region, but he cannot do so unless he becomes well learned or learned. Tell him to make haste and come here no later than the 15th day of the 9th month. Please send me the various sacred texts as soon as possible by way of Tambabo. These are all lay priests, right? Lay monks. As you did with the daily records. Please send Yamabushibo here to me, as I instructed earlier. I am delighted to hear that you have been treating him with such kindness. So this is quite we haven't read anything like this before from Nichiren. This would be, remember, Nichiren in Minobu is in his not retired in the way you and I would think of retirement. Retired in a way to say, I'm not traveling the countryside anymore. I now have a firm base from which to instruct, teach, bequeath the lessons of Buddhism. I'm now, rather than a traveler, a destination. And obviously, he's given this woman a tremendous amount of responsibility, but being as her son is such a votary himself, being a filial son, and such a treasure to his mother, he can certainly see that they will take on responsibility without fail. So he directs her, and he sends her robes, not for her. These robes are for these other lay monks on Sado, presumably. She knows them, and she's going to give them the word. What a tremendous thing to give this woman. he gives her the responsibility of reaching out to these lay monks, right? Like you and I, we're dedicated students, what a monk is. And he's having her give this one particular one robes, which only means one thing. You are now going to, with these robes, dedicate your life to being a votary of the Lotus Sutra, like me, Nichiren. And I want you and these other guys to come and travel to Minobu for personal instruction by me on how to become votaries of the Lotus Sutra. So these would be an inner circle of disciples, right? Their practice and their lives are going to just launch forward. And they then will have the responsibility of being more than just lay monks in their area, but they will become traveling instructors and building a large sangha for the practice of Lotus Sutra under the direction of Nichiren, right? That's pretty amazing. So, a lot of extensions of what normally, I think, in our modern societies, we would think of a filial relationship as just doing what you're told, really, not a whole lot more. But certainly it can be, and it is much more meaningful, even if all you're doing is what you're told. If you do it with dignity and respect, there's a much greater dimension to your taking on that filial goal, right? If you're a child, to your parents, to your elders, right? That lineage of respect and value, respect and value. But if you then take further action upon yourself to solidify that relationship, the life condition you can reach is more than you can imagine. And it will affect and resound around you. So for a parent, this is awe-striking. Because let's face it, if all you do is a few good things and follow directions a little bit, your mom will think you are the king of the mountain. But if you go beyond that on your own and do more than she expects, you'll fill her eyes with tears of appreciation and love. So filial relationships, as are exemplified here, also apply to our practice of Buddhism. From this act of the son, Nichiren sees the woman, the mother, as somebody worthy of great influence. She will send these several other monks on their way to Nichiren for private instruction, to be more in their lives. Certainly that's a great edification and life condition changing for these monks. But don't forget the mother's role in this. She is directing them. She, with the power that she has from the filial relationships in her own life, has the respect, the dignity, the life condition to reach out to these male practitioners and deliver to them their responsibility, their future growth of the Sangha directly to Nichiren. That's no small thing. Quite powerful. We need to consider that one for a little while, I think. Oh, and how convenient. The next Gosho is the sun's pure storehouse and pure eye. which he referenced in the previous Go shows. So that's what we have to look forward to. In the meantime, you know, a little reminder. I don't know. A lot of us use YouTube and the channel, and we don't investigate beyond the little niches that we discover for ourselves. There's a great tool on this website. I just want you to know this, not website, this YouTube page. Anywhere where you're watching this video, there's going to be an icon around one, the Threefold Lotus Kuan, and next to it, it'll say Threefold Lotus Kuan, like at the top of the comments section. If you click on that, that'll take you immediately to the home page, the home page of the channel on YouTube. And underneath the graphic on top, there'll be a little row of menu items just in text. It says home, videos, playlists, a couple of other things, and the about. Right, the about is the last of the list, and then there's a little magnifying glass there. Don't use the YouTube search at the top. Use that magnifying glass, because that will search just this channel. I've got hundreds of videos on this channel. So if there's something that you want to know about, you want to dig deeper into Daimoku, or what is a monk, and just put the word monk in there, or the word Daimoku in there, or the word Gohanzen in there, and click the search. What will happen is that the list underneath that menu will list all of the videos that are on the channel, no matter how old or new, that have anything to do with that keyword, usually in the title, but also in the description. And that's a really quick and useful way to maybe dig deeper into some particular keyword that you feel you want to know more about, or you want more of my take on what that word's about. And you'll get all sorts of videos specifically related in some way to that word. That's a really useful tool, and I know I used YouTube for years before I found, what does that do? Oh, it searches just this channel. Really powerful tool, but YouTube doesn't do a really good job of promoting it, so I'm just mentioning it now. And apart from that, thank you for listening along. Proud of your practice, and really want you to take care of your health, because without it, your practice will falter, your influence will falter, and that's not what we want. We want our Buddha. So stay healthy, and be kind, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Great. Bye for now. Hey, thank you for being here. Did you know there's a third way you can help support this channel, and it won't cost you a cent? Yep. If you are not able to be a patron on Patreon, or use the PayPal me at .com at Sifu Sylvain, because you don't have the financial fortune to help support this channel right now, you, as I say, always support this channel by watching, but you can also help us grow so that maybe one day we can get over 10,000 subscribers, and YouTube will grace us with monetization. It's not a lot, but if you can make sure you're subscribed and share a video, like a simple one, just go into the search criteria and type monk, and you'll have a video that'll come up that's been up for years about what is a monk. It's called monk, who, how, where, something like that. That might be a great introduction to somebody who doesn't understand what a monk is to begin with. It's a tool. Use this channel as a tool to help you with your bodhisattva practice, and share a video to somebody who you think, oh, I know somebody who'll benefit from watching this. And in that way, you can help us grow. And that's a really good way to help your practice along as well. So just wanted to drop that in on you, in case that's something that you might find useful. Take care of yourself again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.